Hollywood Dream is probably the most iconic roller coaster at Universal Studios Japan in Osaka. It's a B&M mega coaster, so not quite at hyper level. However, it has a typical layout that you might see on a hyper coaster. Max height 144 feet, speed of 56 miles per hour, so this ride is not huge, but it's one of the biggest coasters here, and so naturally is going to be one of the most popular. This is going to be my full in-depth review based off of my experience with the coaster, and that is the key there, because I did not really get the full Hollywood Dream experience. And the reason I say that is because you might see this little sign right here that says backdrop. What is that? Well, Universal has a backwards train for this roller coaster. They run 4 trains, 3 of them face forwards, the last one is backwards and has its own separate line. As you can imagine, this line is twice the length of the normal line. When we were there, I believe it was about 2 hours to do this ride backwards. Frankly speaking, as cool as the backwards train is, I'm not gonna wait 2 hours just to ride this ride backwards. So unfortunately, I did not get to do Hollywood Dream backdrop. Again, it looks cool. I would have liked to have done it. However, it was not worth the wait. Now, as for facing forwards, how many rides did I get on it? Unfortunately, only 1. You might be familiar with the fact that Universal Studios Japan is notorious for having huge crowds. I had the brilliant luck of going to this park on a national holiday, and so the line was ridiculous. I waited way too long just to get 1 ride in on it, and as with Flying Dinosaur, you can't even pick your row. So I got assigned to a ride probably in the middle somewhere, and I think that really affected the experience. It's not that I didn't want to ride this coaster more than once. I actually went back to the entrance several times throughout the day to see if the line had gone down, and it had not. And then by the end of the night, when I thought I might get lucky, they closed the line off early. So I really just did not have good luck with this roller coaster, in addition to the fact that the queue didn't have any air conditioning and it was hot and humid. I was just not feeling great waiting for this ride. Not to mention, the line moved surprisingly slow. So now that you are familiar with the conditions I went through before I got on the ride, hopefully that gives you an understanding of why I'm saying what I'm about to tell you. And that is that Hollywood Dream is probably one of my least favorite B&M coasters I've ridden. I was not impressed at all. I thought this ride was the definition of underwhelming and, frankly, boring. I didn't think the layout was anything interesting. Several of the airtime hills did not give airtime, and I got off and I was like, okay, I rode it, one and done, I guess. And so that right there was the final straw of, yeah, well, I'm definitely not going to wait 2 hours just to do this coaster again. I already waited long enough for it the first time. If the coaster was amazing, I think I would have been more likely to wait that extra time like I did with Flying Dinosaur. That first ride I got on it blew me away. Hollywood Dream, not so much. So I'll dive a little bit in closer to the layout to discuss some specifics. But before I do that, I need to discuss the main aspect with this coaster that was actually the inspiration for Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, and that is that this coaster allows you to pick a song that you will listen to during the ride. There are 5 options. I personally chose Bad by Michael Jackson, which I thought was a pretty good fit for the layout. I'm not entirely sure if they are constantly rotating out the songs. My guess would be yes, but I don't know how often that is. So I did think the fact that you can choose a song was a really neat aspect of the ride. There's not too many coasters that have onboard audio, and even less that have good onboard audio, and the audio quality was really strong. So the fact that they were able to achieve that well, props to them. But let's get to the ride. Once you turn out of the station, you start up your lift hill, and this is actually a half enclosed lift hill. Really kind of neat. And then you have your first drop. 50-degree angle, aka not steep at all. I didn't get any airtime over the drop, nor did I the next several hills. After that drop, you actually go over the front gate, which is actually pretty neat. This coaster really interacts with the entrance. I always like it when a park puts one of their headlining attractions right up front that guests can see it as they enter. So I think placement was very good. But the first half of the ride, I would say, is the weakest portion. Again, not a whole lot of the coaster impressed me, but I would say the best parts were towards the end. So you have that first hill after the drop, a turnaround, and then you go through a second smaller hill right next to that first one. And if you've ridden a B&M hypercoaster, you kind of are going to know what these feel like. They're very long, drawn out elements designed to be floaty. Again, I didn't really get get any floater airtime during those hills, but I did get a few on the next one. There's a smaller hill right before the mid-course, which I thought actually gave some surprising air. I'd say that was the best airtime moment on this ride, therefore probably my favorite part. So you hit the mid-course and you're actually on top of some buildings for that portion, which is really neat. You actually pass up over the pathway once you drop off, and it kind of does this sideways banking turn. Pretty neat. It's a really cool looking element. I like it better than your standard turn, and that takes you into a double helix. I did gray out as you travel upwards, so this coaster does have some forces. That's probably the most forceful moment on this ride, but it's just not anywhere near as powerful as some of the other models from B&M that I've done. And then the rest of the ride is pretty self-explanatory. Drops off of that helix, goes into a smaller bunny hill into the brake run. So like I said, the layout is really simple. I think B&M was just designing a ride that would be fun, nothing outstanding or something that would blow you away. To me, this coaster is just there. It exists. It's not that I hate this ride, but I did not think it was worth the wait, especially when the layout isn't anything interesting. And the coolest part about it is that you can just listen to music, which again, several other roller coasters have done it better. Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket being the ultimate example of that, because you have much more of a selection, not just 5 songs. So for Hollywood Dreams' final score, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, right in the middle. I'm very neutral with this ride. I don't really like it, but I also don't dislike it. As I said earlier, probably one of my least favorite coasters by B&M. I was not impressed. If you want an impressive B&M, walk over to the other side of the park and get in line for Flying Dinosaur. There's a coaster that's worth the wait. But hey, those are just my thoughts on Hollywood Dream at Universal Studios Japan. Let me know if you agree with what I've said, if you've had the chance to experience it, or if you had a very different experience than me and you really liked it. That's totally fine. Again, I only got one ride on it. Would have loved to have more, but it's just what happens when you go to a park that's packed all the time. So anyways, if you're new to the channel, I'd love if you could hit that subscribe button. You can go and check out a lot more coaster reviews I've done. I have them all organized in a playlist in alphabetical order, and stay tuned for more here at Coaster Studios. I'll see you guys next time.